Welcome to our channel, where we dive deep into timeless books that can transform your spiritual journey. Today, we re-exploring a powerful classic that has shaped Christian thought around the world, Spiritual Authority by Watchman Nee. If you've ever wondered about what it really means to serve God, submit to leadership, or walk in obedience, this video is for you. Stick around to the end for key takeaways that could radically reshape how you view leadership, rebellion, and obedience in your faith walk. Watchman Nee's classic Spiritual Authority is a profound and sobering exploration of one of the least understood, yet most fundamental truths in the Christian life: the centrality of divine authority and the necessity of human obedience. Drawing heavily from scripture and spiritual experience, Nee argues that authority is not just a principle of governance, but a spiritual reality that reflects the very throne of God. To serve God is to know Him and to walk in His will, depend on how we respond to His authority. Authority, the foundation of the universe is built on God's authority. All things are created, sustained, and governed by it. From the laws of nature to the spiritual order of heaven and earth, God's authority is absolute. Rebellion against this authority is not merely a behavioral issue, but a spiritual crisis. The very principle that led to the fall of Lucifer. Nee insists that sin, though serious, is not as grave as rebellion. Sin is a matter of conduct. Rebellion is a matter of principle. To sin is to fail. To rebel is to dethrone God in the heart. The first major lesson for any Christian is to recognize that all true service begins with submission. Satan, the origin of rebellion. Satan was the first to challenge God's authority. According to Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28, Satan did not merely sin, he rebelled by attempting to exalt himself above God. This principle of self-will, independence, and resistance to divine order continues to be Satan's weapon against God's kingdom. Thus, Watchman Nee warns that Christians can preach Christ in doctrine, but operate under Satan's principle of rebellion. It is not enough to do the right things. We must do them under God's authority, Jesus Christ. The model of obedience central to Nee's teaching is the person of Jesus Christ. Though equal with God, Jesus emptied himself, took the form of a servant, and became obedient to the point of death. He did not grasp at his divine rights, but submitted completely to the Father's will. Through this perfect obedience, Jesus restored divine authority on earth and was exalted above all. Jesus didn't come to assert power, but to obey. His obedience is not weakness, but the highest expression of divine life. Obedience for Nee is not a matter of legalism or fear, but the essence of spiritual maturity. David, a portrait of subjection. Among the human examples Nee highlights, David stands out as a man who understood and honored God's authority. Though anointed as king, David refused to harm Saul, the reigning king, because Saul was still the Lord's anointed. Even when David had every human reason to seize the throne, he chose the path of subjection. Nee emphasizes his true spiritual authority. David could wait for God because he trusted God's order. He would not gain power through rebellion. Instead, he proved himself worthy of authority by staying under authority. Delegated authority. God's channel of rule. A key teaching in the book is that God rules not only directly, but through delegated authority. Parents, leaders, elders, governments, and even flawed individuals. Obeying these authorities is, in principle, obeying God. However, Nee is careful to draw a distinction. We must obey God's delegated authority unless it contradicts His revealed word. In such cases, like Daniel, Peter, or the Hebrew midwives, we disobey man respectfully while maintaining a submissive heart. Biblical cases of rebellion. Nee explores several biblical stories to underscore how rebellion brings judgment. Adam and Eve disobeyed God's direct command and fell, ushering sin into the world. Korah, Dathan, and Abiram rebelled against Moses, and the earth swallowed them. Nadab and Abihu offered strange fire, acting presumptuously in God's service without authority. Miriam and Aaron criticized Moses for marrying an Ethiopian woman. Failing to recognize God's selection of Moses as his spokesman, Miriam became leprous. These stories teach that rebellion often wears a mask of fairness or logic, but ultimately resists God's order. Marks of true spiritual authority, according to Nee. True spiritual authority bears several marks. Revelation. It is not self-appointed, but based on God's revelation. Brokenness. Those in authority are deeply aware of their unworthiness, humility, and grace. They do not dominate, but serve. Accountability. They are under God's authority, even as they exercise it. Moreover, true spiritual authority comes with spiritual power to build, restore, and bring life, not to control or destroy. Authority in the church. Nee sees the church as the instrument through which God reveals his authority on earth. But disorder, divisions, and independence in the body grieve God. The unity of the church is upheld not by structure, but by the mutual recognition of divine authority in each member. Just as the physical body responds to the head, the church must respond to Christ, its head. But this response is mediated through relationships of mutual submission. Obedience and the cross. Obedience is costly. Nee reminds us that the cross is not just a place of sacrifice, but a school of obedience. Jesus learned obedience through suffering. Likewise, believers are shaped into the image of Christ, not through success, but by learning to obey in hardship, silence, and injustice. Final exhortation: spiritual authority is not a leadership manual. It is a spiritual diagnosis. Nee invites every believer to examine their relationship to authority, to God, to His Word, to spiritual leaders, and to fellow believers. The book calls us to choose the path of Christ, to forsake self-will, abandon pride, and embrace the crucified life where God's authority can flow through our lives. Conclusion: Watchman Nee's spiritual authority is both piercing and liberating. In a world and even a church where independence and individualism are prized, Nee reminds us that spiritual maturity begins with brokenness, is proven in obedience, and manifests in service. To know God is to know His authority. To serve Him is to be under it, and to be used by Him is to reflect it. What stood out to you most from this powerful message on authority and obedience? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you found this breakdown helpful. And remember, in God's kingdom, greatness is found not in leading, but in submitting. Thanks for watching. Stay grounded, stay humble, and keep growing in grace. See you in the next video.